Hi, this is Jess.
And this is Erin.
And we are your sacred witness. Our mission is to see a world where everyone knows, lives, and walks out their truth. Today, we're here with Liana Shanti, who is a shaman, visionary, spiritual teacher, plant medicine carrier, ascension guide, as well as a nutritionist and creator of the only plant-based nutrition school offering health coaching certification. She works with people all over the world who seek true healing, guiding them towards their own inner light and helping them find and remove the blocks to their authentic selves on the physical, spiritual, emotional, and energetic levels. Most of her clients come to her seeking a breakthrough experience that will create profound shifts in their lives. Liana offers online programs to heal the mother wound and father wound, programs in abundance and manifesting, and a core program, a 12-week shamanic journey to the soul called Lifepath Manifesting. She has recently began a series of programs through her Lemurian Mystery School, with the first being Awakening Your Ancient Gifts, with many other Mystery School programs coming up in 2018. Weekly, since 2015, Liana has been sending out an energy report called Illuminations to people all over the world that offers insight on the upcoming energy of the week, along with guidance and support to move through each week the most empowered way possible. You guys, I just want to say, this is such an exciting interview for me today because I have been following Liana for quite some time now, basically since it's probably been at least 3, maybe 4 years ago. I think I came across you through some of your nutrition programs. Mm-hmm. And that led into me following her energetic work. And I'm really into energy forecast because I like to know what's coming up and what just to have some guidance throughout my week. And I found with Liana's work that it resonates more than anyone I've ever followed. And not only that, is she's spot on, literally spot on with everything that she talks about. And not only that, she has been a huge inspiration to me. I know in one of our first podcasts, when Erin interviewed me, I actually talk about Liana and how she was a big inspiration for the leaps that I've made in the last couple years, just really trusting in the universe and taking those leaps. And she was a big part of that. And so I'm beyond excited to have her here today with us.
I am too. It's one of the other things too I love about Liana is that just how, and you bring it down to like a level where like we can all understand what's happening, and I just love that. So I just welcome you to the show and thank you for being here and thank you for your time and just, thank you in advance for, sharing your wisdom and just your energy, just being here. So we appreciate it more than you know. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much, ladies. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and truly an honor and a blessing. I feel your energy and resonate with everything you're doing in the world, and what a gift you're offering to all of your listeners and your followers. And truly, it's always, every time, it's an honor to be connected with people who are bringing light onto this planet. So thank you so much for inviting me, and I'm very happy to be with you today.
It's truly our honor. So I thought maybe the best way to start this would be maybe you could give like a brief overview of how you went from being, a corporate attorney to doing energy work in Hawaii, because you taking your leap, that's what really inspired me. So I think this is definitely going to be an inspiration to others.
Absolutely.
Okay, sure. Well, I really, just my entire life is not the life that I lived for the most part. I was an attorney in New York City at the top corporate law firm in the world. I did mergers and acquisitions, very huge multi-billion-dollar deals like the ExxonMobil merger, and was very immersed in that life. I had lived a very academic life, a very left-brain life. Although I always had the gifts that I have today, I put them in a box and I kept them on the side as something that wasn't really relevant to my life path. My life path I viewed as being successful, earning a lot of money, having outward accolades and awards and things of what I would now see as the ego, the ego nature, which is why, currently I try really not to talk too much about myself and my story because, a lot of that is ego, but I also understand that in helping people make their own leaps, it's vital to that process. And so for me, everything changed when my daughter was born. And I was a month out. She was born a month after 9/11, and I was in New York City on 9/11, 8 months pregnant.
Wow.
And that was really when my entire world changed. And I had many people who would come through my office while I was an attorney who would come to me for guidance and spiritual advice. And I never really knew how people knew to come to me for that. They just would. It could be the secretary, a partner at the firm, the copy repairman. And one Christmas, my secretary, Vanessa, actually bought me a sign for my door that said, "The doctor is in." It was kind of her joke. But she's like, you're a healer, not a lawyer. I'm like, well, I'm trying to be both, and I'm working till 4 a.m. because I'm spending all this time talking to people. But still, despite that, I wouldn't acknowledge that as being valuable. I wouldn't acknowledge that as being something that would be a mark of success and what I had perceived as being success. And when my daughter was 8 months within me and 9/11 happened, my whole world was shaken. And then during my childbirth experience, I actually had a near-death experience. I've had 2 near-death experiences, and I was struck by lightning as an early teenager. So when I tell people I was stubborn, and I understand if you are having a hard time following your true path, I really get it, because the universe had to almost kill me 3 times to wake me up. So,
wow.
yeah, so I was a hard case. I was running from my true path, and I was afraid of it, and I was afraid of the power behind it, and afraid of what it would mean and what people would think and the perception and all of that. So my daughter was born in October of 2001, and when I looked at her face, we made eye contact, and I knew I was meeting an ancient soul and a teacher who came here to motivate me to truly start my path, my real path, and everything leading up to that moment had been preparation. And so at that point, within a matter of months, I filed for divorce from a relationship that was not very healing or healthy. Wow. I moved 6,000 miles away from New York City, the heart of New York City, to the big island of Hawaii. I had no plan, no idea what I was going to do. I was walking away from a 7-figure income. Wow. In a very prestigious career, and all of my education, all of my family who I'm close with, my entire support network, and literally all of that happened within a few months. And I wound up on the Big Island and did a lot of prayer, a lot of meditation, a lot of soul searching, and really begging the universe to show me what my path was. And I was committed to that path. And the one thing that I tell my students and my clients all the time when they say to me, "Wow, you're just so fearless. That's amazing." I tell them I'm not really fearless at all. I have just as much fear as every other person, but I knew that I had to commit to my authentic path, because if I didn't, why else was I here? Why I always had the awareness that if I'm here on earth to fulfill my mission and my path, if I leave this earth without doing that, how awful is that? How hypocritical is that? I cannot be that person. And most of the conversations I'd always had with people were about follow your heart. If you're unhappy in a relationship, move on and find your peace, and giving all this advice, dispensing all this advice, but then not taking it my own self. And that was my prayer, was to help me be authentic and be fully in alignment with who I was and with the teachings that I was sharing with people, even before I viewed myself as a teacher or a shaman. And that led me to work with plant medicines and other shaman in places like Peru and also on the island of Kauai. And through that path, which took a series of years, because I had a whole other career in between, a lawyer and what I do now, I went into sales, and it was very successful in a sales career, which was just another diversion. Sure. And so through that work, I just still wasn't ready to actually embrace this path. And I did a lot of plant medicine work and uncovered my own plant medicine carrying abilities and my journeying capabilities, and then all of my gifts basically awakened. I mean, they were there, but they weren't fully present in my life, and it was this awakening that happened, and everything came out, and my visionary abilities and my ability to communicate with other beings who had passed away, just the universal reading the Akashic records. It was sort of like everything came in a watershed moment. It was overwhelming, but I accepted it. I said, okay, I accept this, and I'm willing. That was my mantra at that point. I am willing. And I just kept saying, I still say that, because every new nuance and every new facet that is shown to me about where I need to take this work and what I need to do I just keep saying I am willing, and then I wait for the information to come through, and I surrender to it. And surrender is the biggest part of it, because there's always fear. There's always the concern that, is this the right thing? Am I going in the right direction? Should I really be doing this? And that fear comes up, but it's through that fear that I surrender, and I trust the universe. I trust God. I trust the benevolence and love that is the creation of all of existence. And that's what keeps me going. It's an ongoing process. I don't ever feel that there's an end point. It's an evolving process, and I'm with that in surrender in pretty much every day of my life. And ultimately, I think that's the best message for anybody who's going through their changes, their willingness and their desire to embrace themselves and their gifts. And so many women that I know have these incredible gifts, and they're just afraid of them, and they're trapped in parts of their lives that are keeping them stuck. And it's about looking at that fear, not ever waiting for a time where you're not fearful, because I don't really believe that time ever comes. It's saying, you know what, I do have fear, but I can do this. If she can do this, I can do this. And that's really the message that I want everybody to hear, is you can do this. Whoever's listening, you can do this, and you can tap into your gifts, because they're unique to you, and only you carry those gifts. There's no competition. There is no other being in existence at this moment, at this time, that has what you have and can share your unique light in only the way that you can. And for me, that's the core message that underlies everything that I do.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. That's really incredibly powerful. And the one thing I'm hearing from you is that, talking about the fear, there's always going to be fear, but it sounds like you use that fear, sorry, the dog. It sounds like you use the fear as a tool to know, oh, okay, I'm feeling this fear now. That means I need to go into surrender mode. Is that kind of how you utilize and use that fear, rather than allowing the fear to use you?
Absolutely. That's such a beautiful way to put that. Thank you for putting it that way. That's exactly what happens when I feel fear. I typically recognize that as a new beginning is coming, something that I'm going to be asked to do, something that I haven't done yet, something that's out of my comfort zone. And as many comfort zones as I've been pushed out of with my path as a shaman, there's always more. So when that fear comes up, that is exactly when I say, okay, it's time for me to surrender. And I catch myself quickly now. It used to be a much bigger gap between when the fear would happen, then my brain would kick in, and my ego would have all these different conversations about how things were or were not going to happen. And I skip that part now. Now it's like the fear happens. I'm like, okay, I recognize this. Now I need to surrender and be open to the universe and to God. And I am a tool. I am a tool for healing and for light. And this is not about me. And just sit back and take a deep breath until you get very clear direction. And that surrender comes almost immediately after the fear now. So, that took many years of practice. That did not happen for me overnight.
Well, hence the getting hit by lightning, right? So,
right.
Actually, it's so funny, because I think I was listening to one of your Illuminations, or maybe it was in the Awakening Ancient Gifts. I'm not sure. But this was right before I had my child. And literally I went into labor and I was terrified, and I thought of you, and I just literally, I said out loud, I surrender. And I said this so many times, and then it went on inside my head. It went on aloud. And this basically went on from the time I had hardcore active labor until I pushed her out. So, and that's how it worked.
Wow.
And so, yes, so I'm super grateful for that knowledge, and for, just for you to share that. That's amazing.
Yeah. What
you're doing to help people, what you've done to help me. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, people need to hear this nowadays. I just feel like, and I know, I have a feeling anyway that you're feeling the same way too, Liana, is that it's like go time, where it's time to not, it's time to go, and it's time to step into our gifts. And it seems like also what you're saying is too, from what I'm hearing you say in the beginning, when you talked about how you had all these gifts and how you have a sign, the doctor's in and whatnot. And it was kind of looked at as, kind of a joke, but not really, but you didn't take it seriously. And I think that's for me, and I'm a coach, a women's coach as well. And I did the same thing with my own life, where I didn't recognize the gifts that were in me, because they were just a part of who I was. So I didn't appreciate them for really what they were. I just thought that, well, that's just what everybody, everybody does, or that's just normal. And so it sounds like that's kind of what you had to overcome too, and know that, okay, this is who I am. And therefore this is my offering to the world as well. Would you say that that's kind of was part of your journey or awakening process too, of realizing what you took for granted within you was actually your gifts?
Absolutely. One of the things that has become crystal clear to me over the years in working with so many women is that the things that are innate to us, the things that we are gifted with that are always present and have been since we were children, we don't value those things. And because we have this imbalance between the divine masculine and the divine feminine, which, by the way, harms both women and men, it's not just harming women, it's harming everyone. There is this belief that we need something from the outside. We need to achieve our gifts and our talents and our success from an external source. And we go about through life seeking to fill ourselves up with things from the outside. And that's why the entire foundation of my work is, no, turn all of that off. Stop all of the things you're doing external and turn within, because I guarantee you, I promise you, you already have everything you need. You came to this earth with all of the gifts you already needed to do the work that you came here to do. It's a matter of uncovering that. And by the time we reach adulthood, it's a matter of peeling back the layers that have covered up and clouded our perception, because we can't even see our truth. And so we don't value those gifts. And when you are naturally doing something in your life, like you have your gifts and coaching women, and it was just something you did and who you were, the irony is those are your gifts, right? That's why you're here. But we were like, no, that's not valuable. I need a degree, or I need to have some level of outward validation. And we seek this validation, and what we are and who we are isn't really valued in the society that we live in, certainly not valued in the majority of the education system, and in the way most parents raise kids or have raised, certainly in the past. I think that's shifting for sure today, but it's also the way that they were taught. And so it's like, no, it's not valuable to sit and listen to someone share their problems. It's not valuable to motivate someone to, go out and achieve their best life. Those are just things that you do on the side, but that's not really your path. Your path has to be something way different and impressive to society. And it's so harmful, because I have every person I've ever worked with, I instantaneously see the wealth of gifts that they have. And a lot of the time when I first start working with someone, they have no clue. And I'll say to them, did you know you have this gift of musical healing? Or do you know that you can work with crystals? Or did you know you have energy healing capabilities? They're like, no. A lot of the time they have no clue. And other times they'll say, I kind of know, but I didn't think I was good enough to do that. And I'm not, and they'll start comparing themselves with other people. I'm not as good as this person, or I'm not like that person. And the instant comparing starts to happen. And all of that just shuts people down, and they just keep those gifts hidden, and they keep their light hidden. And for me, it was because I had so much outward success with constant validation on every level, personal, professional, financial. Those to me were the signposts of a successful life. And so this other part of me, that who I am, my gifts, was just not something I even wanted to share with anybody other than the few people that got to know me on a personal level. And it was a big struggle. It was a big struggle to let go of that. And I believe that it is for everyone, because of the society that we live in and the way that we're taught to dishonor our true gifts in favor of what is outward validation.
Yeah, it's wild, the programming and how deep it goes, and how we're really bred, and just it's inbred in us, and just we're taught to, you go to school, and the whole purpose of going to school is to make a lot of money. It's not to be happy, right? And it's not to find our true gifts. It's to make money. And then, once you're making the money, then you can do the rest on the side, like you were saying. So, but I feel like there's a shift. I feel like we're in the middle of this paradigm shift, and people are starting to awaken to like what's really happening. Right? Wouldn't you agree to that?
Absolutely. Yeah, we are really, we go in 9-year cycles here on Earth, and we're in the end of a 1 year. So 2017 was a 1 year, which will lead us all the way up to 2025. And this is the time period where everything is changing, and where you're going to see, and you're already seeing, and in the very first Illuminations of this year, I said to everyone that after the eclipse, you're going to see natural disasters and violence and shakeups and wake-ups all over the planet, in the collective and in your personal life, because the universal energy that's coming through is coming through in a blasting kind of a way to wake us up, to wake everyone up, and to say, this isn't a game, this is real, and you are here carrying some very special gifts, and they need to be awakened, and you need to act. Now is the time. And we're right at the end of this 1 year. So the next 8 years is going to be pivotal, radical. Everything that we think we know, everything that is a structure, everything that has been our safety and our illusion is crumbling. Every illusion is crumbling, and it's crumbling not just in your personal life, but it's crumbling in the collective, and that will continue to accelerate. And it will be beautiful for those of us who are aware and willing participants in our own path and in our ability to surrender. And it will be absolutely grueling for people who cling to what is fake and what is false and what is the old paradigm. And you'll see a widening gap between those two groups of people, really the people who are ascending and feeling lighter and achieving their higher self, and then those who are really stuck in the old. And a lot of the revelations we're seeing in the news today are things, we've talked about all year in Illuminations, about all of the sexual abuse and all of the predators and all of the energy that's being shown to us out in the light. The light is being shined on all of this illusion and all of this darkness that has remained hidden. And it's about revealing that collective shadow, because we're all part of the bigger shadow. We have our own personal shadow, but all of that together forms the collective shadow. And that is what is being uprooted and awakened. And it's going whether we're happy about it or not. And we're in the midst of that right now. In this next 8 years following 2017, everyone will see radically different paradigms happening all over the planet, and many of them shocking, because this is big. This is the biggest period in our history that anyone has ever really experienced.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. So I have a quick question about that. Like, before we get into like the neutrino fields and, and how all of this, works, but like, okay, so the people this new paradigm, when we're shifting and, and everything is crumbling, what happens then to, say, the people, that are just violently hanging on and refuse to let go? What happens?
They suffer, they suffer. We have total ability to step out of suffering. And that's a very difficult concept for people to really grasp, because we have so much of the victim mentality. And people are very disempowered, and they believe, and for sure, to be very, very clear, there are people that are victims of horrific things, of wars, of abuses. This is in no way intending to say that victims are not victims. They are. There's a flip side to that, however, which is when we find ourselves in any position that is diminished empowerment, we can actually grab onto the light and take charge of ourselves. And that differs for people depending on where they're at in their soul growth. So there are people who are so disempowered by where they live, what their ability to access healing, their financial, people that live in abject poverty and who are in war-torn countries. Those are people who are in their own soul path, people who have access to ascension teachings and can access their gifts and doing the things we're talking about right now. This is a privilege. This is a privilege for all of us who are participating in this, listening to this. There are so many people who don't have access to this. So it's up to those people who have access to this kind of healing to take advantage of it and to do the work necessary to heal our own shadows and to bring out our light, because our light will spread to all of those people who don't even have a glimpse of the light yet. That it's a responsibility. And I say that to my clients all the time. This isn't just about your own healing, which is beautiful and perfect, but this is about a greater responsibility to all of humanity, all of life, to this planet, to spread your light. It can only spread once you access it and once you heal your own shadow, and you have a responsibility to spread that light, because it will reach the people that don't even know what we're talking about right now, that have never even heard about light or ascension or healing or neutrinos or any of this. And we have that leadership role and responsibility. I personally take that. So that is the most important thing in my life, is to continue to honor my role and my path and encourage others to do the same. And the people who are clinging, the people who actually have access to information and to learning and to growth and to healing, but who insist on clinging to the past and the old dying paradigms, they will suffer greatly. They will suffer all kinds of terrible things. I mean, that's just, we see it happening. And when the earth shakes and moves and humanity shakes and moves, you find yourself either on the healing side of that or on the destructive side of that. And that's why so many people are suffering and will continue to suffer because they're fighting it. And there's always two ways to learn, really. It's that simple. This is not complicated. You can learn through pain and suffering, which is a great school. Pain is a great teacher. Or you can learn through love. And I've certainly learned through pain in my own life with near-death experiences and being struck by lightning and many other things that I've been through, including divorce and all of that. And I've learned through love. And so as a teacher, I'm a teacher who teaches from a place of love and helping people understand that if you love yourself unconditionally, and I can show people how that can happen and that your worth is present. And it was always present and you never lost that. You are still the beautiful, worthy being, worthy of love, that you can heal through love. And people can choose that. On the other hand, there are people who continue to choose to learn through pain and through pain as a teacher. And that's where you'll see lots of suffering, lots of physical pain, emotional pain, all of the things that people suffer with today and will continue to as more of this erupts and more of this gets shaken. Very destabilizing for so many people, because when you're clinging to a building that's falling apart in an earthquake, you're going to go down in the rubble. If you see that the building is crumbling and you say, okay, I love this building, but it's gone, I need to get out. And you walk yourself out, you walk towards love. Mm-hmm. And that is how healing happens. And those are really the two distinct things you're going to see happening going forward.
So, well, what advice would you have for the people who are just starting down this path, who want to awaken their gifts, but don't really know how to do that? And even for the people who have been on this path, but still just aren't quite there yet and aren't seeing the way, like, what would you say to those people?
I would say that you listen to your intuition and trust yourself. That's the most important thing, because you will get messages and signs of teachers you can work with, teachers you can follow, different practices and programs that can help you, that can get you closer and closer to your inner self. The goal is to find your true self. But the issue is that there's all kinds of wounding. There's mother wound and father wound, and there's abandonment wound, and there's lack of self-worth that the vast majority of people living on the planet today do not believe they're worthy of bliss and total unconditional love. But it's there. It's in you. You are that. You are that love. You are worthy of that. And so it's a matter of healing what covers that. The wounds that make you think you're defective, the wounds that make people think they're not good enough, the wounds that cover up your true light and that cover up your gifts, those just need to be healed. And once they're healed, they release, and layer by layer by layer, your perception changes. And then you start to have the ability to see yourself the way that I'm able to see people. You're able to see your gifts. And so my advice would be, trust your intuition. If you feel drawn to something, if you feel that something could be healing, especially if you're a little scared of it. That's a clue. If you find a teacher or a teaching or something that scares you a little bit, but you feel drawn to it, go for that, because that is your own internal guidance system saying, yes, this is going to be a little challenging, but this is the direction to go in. And to trust yourself, to begin to trust yourself, to follow those signs and awaken yourself. And the second part of that is to just be gentle with yourself, to not beat yourself up, and to not judge yourself for not having grown fast enough, or for finding out about something 2 years ago, but you're not actually doing it until today. We don't really have time for judgment. We don't really have time for going back and the guilt and the shame. We have only the present moment, and it's now. Now is the time for people to act. So that would be the best thing to do, is to listen to your intuition, look at anything that is a little bit fearful for you, and begin to act today, not next week, not wait till your New Year's resolution, not wait till the end of 2018, now. And do whatever you can now, wherever you're at in your life, whatever you can practically do today, now, to make that shift, whether it's self-care or learning to meditate or doing a plant medicine journey or finding a shaman or listening to Illuminations, whatever it is that you can grab onto that helps you begin to see your own light. That is what you need to do, and you need to do it now. And it's always about finding your own light. Any teacher, program, system, anything out there, which is a lot of what I see in the New Age world, anything that tells you that there's an answer outside of yourself, run from that. Run as far and as fast as you can, because everything you need is already within you, and you need teachers and guideposts that direct you back to yourself.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. I want to touch on something. There's such a sense of urgency, within you. And I love that. Can you kind of speak to that a little bit? I know you said, we're in a 1 year, at the end of a 1 year out of this cycle. But, why should people, that are listening, feel this urgency as well? Like, if they're ready to step in, but they're a little bit like, where is this urgency? And how can they, I guess why?
Okay. So the urgency is, we take life for granted, and that sounds so cliche, but the reality is we go throughout our days, we have our to-do list, we're busy, we're moms, we're business owners, we're, whatever, employees, wherever we find ourselves on the spectrum, we have stuff to do, and we allow life to pass us by, and it passes by at a very rapid pace, as any of us who are over the age of 20 probably figured out.
Yeah.
Up to that point, we think we're gonna live forever, so it's not so relevant. But the gift of life is so profound, and I say that coming from a perspective of weekly, and many times a week actually, working with people who are no longer living. When I work with clients, often we are talking and having conversations with people who have passed on, who are in other realms and other dimensions, and there's always a real harsh, I would definitely call it harsh, awakening when people who have passed on come into a journey that I'm doing, and my client will be shocked that they didn't just die and end up in some flowery, bloomy, happy place, and like everything stopped on a dime, and all of their pain, all of the suffering they had as a human is just vaporized in an instant. People are always shocked that is not what happens, and people are always shocked when their loved ones tell them they come with very specific messages and very specific dates. They'll even tell me dates and times, and February 12th, this happened and that happened, and people are always shocked to get that kind of clarity, but at the same time, they're a little scared because for a long time they've been believing, well, when I die, this will all go away. There's no urgency anymore. I'm floating in some kind of blissful state. But when you see that the soul is on this journey, this endless journey, and this thing that we call Earth, this Earth school, this life that we've been given as human beings is a gift. It's a school. We're being given the ticket to admission to the best school, in the universe, to learn and to grow and to heal our soul. If we squander that, and we leave this earth, which is definitely a choice, and many people actually do make that choice, the work doesn't go away. It gets harder, because when you don't have the benefit of relationship, then you're doing the healing on your own. And I can only say that to me, it's terrifying when I see what some of the people have to go through that have left this earth without healing any of their wounding. I wouldn't wish that on anybody, no matter what they've done on this planet. And so this gift is urgent, because we don't know. We don't know if we're going to wake up tomorrow morning. We don't know if we're going to wake up next year. We do know that right this second, we are breathing air, and we are given the gift of life and the gift of relationship with other people, and even with animals and other beings. The gift that is so profound. Most people squander it. Most people, to some degree or a large degree, take that for granted and don't understand the sacredness of every conversation with another human being, the sacredness of every interaction, whether it's in a grocery store or with your spouse or with your child. And of course, there's varying degrees of healing going on. Every encounter with another being is so sacred, because this is a gift. And if we're breathing air, that means that we have the ability to heal in a way that is so supportive. We have tools, we have teachers, we have guidance, we have plant medicines, we have all of this energy that can help us.
Yeah.
And my urgency is take advantage of all of it. Like you've been given admission to like school of the universe here on Earth, and Earth is a living library. You have everything at your fingertips and people to help you, and you'll find your tribe. You'll find the right people, and you can heal now. If you wait and another year goes by and you've over busied yourself because you're distracting from your problems and your real healing and your shadow, that's a year that no healing can happen. And so to me, it's always been urgent. To me, when I was 2 years old, I have this memory, and my parents always remind me of it, because they just had this very vivid for them. I was 2 years old, and I was sitting on my bed crying hysterically, and my father came in and said, "What is the matter, honey?" And I said, "I don't know what Jesus wants me to do with my life." He's like, "You're two." It's your time. And So for me, it's been urgency always. And even when I was completely distracted as a lawyer and in sales, I had such unrest. I could never sleep. I was a total insomniac. Something wasn't right. I'm like, I know I'm not doing this right. I know this is not why I'm on this earth. Please help me. And of course, as you know, it took me a while to get past my own fear. But for me, it's always been urgent because I recognize that gift. And I recognize if we're here with a purpose and we're not doing something about it, that is not good. And so it's always been urgent. Right now, though, in this 9-year period, this is the line of separation. This is it. This 9-year period is truly the people who will move forward with their ascension and the people who will completely remain stuck. And people who do not get out of this 9-year cycle will be stuck for a very long time, very, very, very long time, far beyond this earthly existence. And that's the urgency that is literally right now as of December 6, 2017. So there's really 2 different pieces to the urgency message.
Wow.
Wow. That's pretty serious. I mean, it really is. And I completely agree with you, as far as we do take this life for granted, we get up and we're like, oh, it's just another day, have that attitude. And, we get up, we dread I always joke about this before, we dread Monday and we live for Friday. And, and just squander it away. We dread 5 days out of the week. And then we, go and intoxicate ourselves or, get distracted over the weekend just to forget about the week before. And then Sunday evening comes around and then we're depressed because Monday morning is the next, it's just this vicious cycle, that most people go through. And it's real, I remember living it too. And at some point though, it's like, at some point it's just got to stop, it's just got to be like, okay, this is enough. Yeah. Got to be more. There's got to be more to life than this, than what I'm currently living. And I think that's where a lot of people are coming to. They just don't know because they haven't surrounded themselves, with people, they say that, right? Like, and they wake up to that fact, but then there's people in their life that are like, oh, you're fine, and then I think so much of this is, for me, like this religious programming of like, oh, I'm not being grateful then enough. And then we have this guilt and shame cycle too, right? Like I should be grateful that I have a job. Yeah. I'm in a relationship, even though I'm miserable. And, you know what I'm saying? I have a roof over my head and I have food in the fridge. And then, so we trick ourselves into not really desiring what we want to do. And so then we limit ourselves with that. And then it just, again, breeds this whole, vicious cycle of, of knowing deep down, and we're literally just betraying ourselves is how I look at it. Like we know this, but we just continually day in and day out betray ourselves. And that's absolutely the sad part for me to see that. Because I've done it, I did it to myself, and it sounds like you did too. And I know Jess has too, we've been through some major shifts lately, marriage shifts, for both of us. And everything, so many, like life upside down, but I wouldn't have it any other way at this point, as hard as it is, it's like, I couldn't go back, there's no way.
Right. Right.
But there is no other path, right? Yeah. That's how I feel.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you this though, like what about the people that don't have any clue that there needs to be some type of healing work done on some level that are, are they in denial? Is it that they've chosen before they came here that they weren't going to ascend, that they weren't going to do this work? Is it, did we make this choice before we came, or does everyone have the ability to ascend? Because I know a lot of people who don't see that at all.
Yeah, everyone has the ability to ascend. And when we make the choice, because it's always a choice to have an earthly existence, but it's not just a choice. We don't just get to make the choice and say, yes, I want to have a human life. There's a choice. We make that commitment, and then we are either given the opportunity or we're not given the opportunity. And there are many souls and beings that try to come to this earth and are not given that opportunity, and don't get to actually have an earthly incarnation. And so we do make that choice, but we choose to set up ourselves into a school, if you will, that will provide the right circumstances for the learning that needs to take place. The challenge comes in when we have very difficult experiences, especially when they come at younger ages, that, experiences that beat people down, experiences of life that are very hard and are for the purpose of learning, but that instead of causing growth and learning, cause people to shut down and completely ignore the reality of why they're on Earth. So it's very challenging because everyone does make the choice, but not very many people fully realize that choice in time to do something about it. As you've probably seen books of people dying, or if you've ever worked with anyone in hospice or known anyone who is dying, you often see this sort of last minute awakening of, oh, wow, I'm dying and I see this all now. I understand this all now. But they've already squandered the entire opportunity of 70, 80, 90, 100 years of work that could have been taking place. So most people realize it in that moment of death, but it's too late. There isn't anything we can do about it at that point, because then we're pushed into our next journey where the learning happens in a very different way. So we do make that choice, but it's very hard to get on that path and to stay on that path. And so you see lots and lots of people who really appear clueless, and they are to a large extent. They're clueless about what's happening. But I believe, that the more of the people who are finding their light and who are having the courage, because it takes courage, as you both know, to follow your authentic path and to move through that pain in all kinds of changes that happen once you accept your path and what that means for your personal life and your professional life and everything else. It takes so much courage, but the more people who find that courage and step out onto that authentic path, the more we spread that light, and the more light in the collective, more and more and more people come into that fold. And, I know even people who have come to me, I have many people who came to me through my nutrition school or through my plant-based eating page and had no idea what they were about to get into. They laugh off and they're like, we thought it was a juice cleanse, and now I'm divorced and quit my job and I'm an energy healer.
That's kind of what happened to me, actually.
So yeah, and that's why what you put out there, if it's authentic and it's coming from the light, it will bring people closer and closer to whatever they need to be drawn to, and more and more people will awaken. It's not going to be everybody, and there will definitely be more people not awakening than who are. That's just the imbalance that's currently in existence, but you will see more and more people awakening. There is definitely a shift in consciousness happening all around us, and the more of us that awaken and lead the way, we pave that way for everyone else. And I encourage every single one of the people I work with and in my groups, like, you have these gifts. If you're here, if you're working with me, I guarantee you, I promise you, you are ready, because people often come to me after years of therapy and years of every other program in the world, and they're like, okay, I'm ready for an actual breakthrough and from this kind of teaching. And they're ready because what I teach is not easy, and it's a path that creates many challenges. And if you're on that path, you're definitely ready. And I encourage everybody to really go and embrace that, because you need to be a leader. You need to share this light and help others, and you will see more and more people come into your circles with their own light, and then it spreads out. It's beautiful. It's just like any other light. It gets bigger and bigger the more lives it touches.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. So, I kind of want to talk to you about, just how you were talking about, I kind of want to bring up the whole neutrino field and, and how you work with that, and just really being able to have this wisdom and this, studying this. And can you kind of break that down a little bit?
This is not just astrology.
Right. So the Illuminations and, and what you do, how do you, how do you study this, and what does the neutrino field look like? Breaking it down into simple terms, if that can be done.
Okay. Astrology has been a beautiful thing for many years. It's very outdated, it's antiquated, and it's old paradigm itself. Like many of the teachings, many of the teachings that are currently available are older forms of what has worked for many years and have been very vital. And I would never diminish any systems or teachings. For the time that they existed in, they were appropriate and they were necessary, and they were what was needed at the time. However, we're so far beyond that now, and the new field, just to kind of give a quick little synopsis in quantum physics here, a neutrino is just a subatomic particle that is emitted by stars and planets, and the neutrinos travel through the universe at the speed of light. They penetrate everything by the trillions per square inch per second. So every second we have trillions of these neutrinos blast through our physical bodies, and we also emit our own neutrinos, and we exchange them with other people. So there's always an energy exchange going on at all times, while we're sleeping, while we're waking, while we're doing anything. And the key thing about neutrinos is that they have mass. So there's a system out there called human design that I work with. It's a combination of your birth time, your birth date, your location. It does take into account astrology. It takes into account Kabbalic wisdom and the chakras and the neutrino fields, quantum physics. It's sort of everything rolled up into one.
Wow.
And this was a system that was it was channeled in 1987 by a man named Ra Uru Hu, and he channeled this whole thing, talked about neutrinos. And at the time, science had understood that neutrinos existed, but they didn't really understand what they were or how they worked. And at the time, Ra, who had channeled human design, said, you know what? Neutrinos have mass. They affect you, and they affect you profoundly. And he said, but it's going to be a long time before science catches up to this. And sure enough, 2015, just a couple of years ago, a scientist from Canada and a scientist from Japan worked on neutrinos and, quote unquote, discovered that in fact neutrinos have mass, and they won the Nobel Prize in quantum physics, and they shared the $1 million award for achieving this discovery that
Wow.
neutrinos have mass. And it's such a profound discovery, whether you're into science or not. The profound nature of it is that as these are passing through our body, our DNA is changing. We are changed. Our organs are changing. Our energy field changes. Our whole entire system changes, and it is happening every second.
Wow.
So I cannot explain to you how or why I can read this field. It's part of my ability to read the Akashic record. It's just something I do. I mean, I wish I could teach that to everyone. I don't even know how I do it. I look into the field and I see the neutrino field, and I see how it spreads out throughout the week and what the energy is going to look like, and what kind of disruptions or challenges. Are we going to have financial or relationship problems, or is communication going to be kind of stuck? Are we going to feel more mellow and depressed? And and sort of share that with people so that you have a heads up on what the energy looks like. Most importantly, because I'm all about empowering people and bringing it down to earth and to real, not like, okay, well, it's Mercury retrograde, so everything's going to stink. No, it's about, here's the energy coming through. Thursday's going to be a heavy day. Wednesday's going to be a heavy energy day. There's going to be shifts on the planet, shifts in the collective, and here's how you can avoid problems. Here's how you can avoid having a lot of stress or even accidents or struggles with your partner. Maybe today's not a good day to have a serious conversation with your spouse, or, just giving people the heads up so that they empower themselves and they can work with it, because you're never a victim. You're never just at the whim of these neutrino fields unless you're completely unaware. So it's like going out on a boat and you're out in the ocean and you're aware, okay, there's a storm coming and I need to batten down the hatches. I need to go a little slower. I need to be aware and be awake and be much more astute for what's coming, and I'll be fine. And you will, and you'll be fine, and you'll power through it, and you'll have so much growth versus, you know what, I don't want to know. I don't care. These things don't affect me. And then you're tossed about and your ship goes upside down and you drown, or, something to that effect. So that's really the neutrino field. It is affecting us. It's emitted from stars. These neutrino streams are emitted from planets. They are bombarding our bodies every second. And we are exchanging with other people. So in every relationship, every environment you're in energetically, you are passing neutrinos back and forth. And there's certain attractions and repellents and things that we learn from other people that are happening literally at the subatomic particle level. And this is now proven by science. And I love that only because I was a science major in college. I was a biochemistry, was one of my majors. I thought I was going to be a neurosurgeon at the time. And so wow. I love that. I love that it's concrete and that it's something that can be shown to people, because for me, I always sought that kind of proof, if you will, like, is that really real? And not that that matters. And there are certainly many more things that cannot be proven yet, many things that aren't in that realm yet that I see, that I work with. And I know it's going to be way, way after I'm not even on this earth anymore before these things come to light in terms of proof. But it makes me so excited and so happy when 2 years ago, this actually became realized, because I'd been working with human design for many years. And so it is actually proven that we are exchanging subatomic energy with one another and with the universe and with stars and with planets. And we are deeply, deeply changed by these neutrino fields, and we are changing the neutrino fields. We're a constant living organism with each other and with the planets, with the universe. I mean, it's so beautiful and so profound. And once you know that and you understand how to work with it, it's like you can do anything. You're part of the universe. You're literally interacting with star matter. I mean, I think you can tell I'm just very excited about this.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, it's really, that's what it's done for me. And I know Jess is one, like, you've got to get, her forecast. And it really is like a weather forecast. It's like you were saying, I loved your analogy about the ship, and going out. And, when you know it might be rain, you can at least bring an umbrella so that you can protect yourself. And if you're good, well, then you're good. You don't need it. But at least, we're walking into our day with awareness, so that if there's stuff that's going to face us that we're going to have to deal with our shadow, like we're going, so we can respond in a different way rather than just react, right? Like you're saying, and being tossed around.
Helps us take our power back, right?
Exactly. Like you're saying, it's super empowering, and it gives us, like you said, it brings back choice, like empowerment really, for me, it means choice. And then we have the choice, right?
Yes.
To be completely unaware and then be the victim. I mean, that's what happens is when we choose to not be aware, that's really the victim mindset, because we don't want to take responsibility. And this is what that is about. So I really appreciate your, every Monday morning, I'm like, Illuminations. Okay. And I get up earlier and I go up to my living room and I try to not wake up, especially my little one, because he'll come out and I'm like, I just want to listen to it all by myself, like in the dark even, and like,
I think I'm probably 3 or 4 times, if not more, throughout the week, just because it's so much information. It's so detailed. It's not just like a broad overview. That's what's so amazing about it. I mean, you have so many gifts, Liana.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing those gifts with us and the world.
It's amazing. And, the other thing too, I think of is, my background, with different, just being very deep, evangelical, like, Christianity, like there's signs in the heavens and this is it. Like, this is signs, like we have signs all around us, right? The stars and the planets.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. When everything from religion, spirituality, and everything else, when we can bridge all of these gaps and find this commonality between it all. And I'm seeing so much of that, especially nowadays, and, just really building that bridge, instead of having it to be a tool of separation, really, really building that bridge between, between different paradigms, I guess, different timelines, different religions, and the people who are ready to make that bridge as well, they get on that bridge too. I mean, there's some that aren't, and that's okay too, but it's their choice again. But maybe we could, I don't know, do you want to talk about like what's happening now? Like what should people, current events it's crazy. I mean, the things that are happening now, and I know we mentioned a little bit about what happened today in current events. We want to touch on that. Are you good?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, what we're seeing, even with the current event, the literal event of today, which we touched on right before we got on this podcast about Jerusalem being named, the official capital of Israel. And, this is such a historic event. And these are, this is, for anyone who's been following anything happening in the Middle East for decades, this is such a profound happening. And again, I always try to steer people away from either ors, and I try to steer people away from becoming entrenched in positions or political ideologies, because it's just not helpful. It's just much more powerful and empowering to see the unity in it all, and to see that these are historic events that are happening, whether people fall on the side of, Jerusalem should be the capital, it shouldn't be the capital. Of course, people have very different perspectives on this, but just the simple fact that this is a move that sparks controversy across the entire world. And it is such a big deal, because the final status of Jerusalem has been one of the most difficult questions in the entire Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And it is seen with the U.S. declaring Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. It's basically deciding the issue that, without the people who live in that region deciding the issue. And so it's definitely historic of gargantuan proportions. And in the beginning of this year, when I did the beginning of the year Illuminations, I said, like, you are going to see radical, like, complete shifts happening politically, spiritually, financially, geographically. And this Israel decision is, I think, one of the biggest of the year. And I think some people will instantly recognize that. Other people will think, okay, no big deal. This is just a political move. But it is truly, truly a historic moment, and we are in the midst of it. And that is exactly the energy that we've been talking about today, which is so powerful and earth shaking on every level. And it's happening. We're here, we're experiencing it. And more of this is really only the beginning. And with all of the uncovering of the Hollywood elite and the sexual harassment and the sexual abuse and lots of child abuse within churches and institutions and colleges, all of this is getting unearthed, and it will be more and more and more. And as shocking as it all seems to people, I think people will become more comfortable with the light revealing all of these truths and with these changes. And so we really are right in the middle of this, and it is absolutely go time. It is the time to recognize that this power is ours to utilize in our own lives and to get ourselves to wake up to the shifts that are happening, because the world we see now will look completely different by the time 2025 comes in every possible way imaginable.
Wow, that's not long.
No. Can you speak to that a little bit?
It's not.
What do you, like, when you say it will look completely different, like, what do you foresee? I mean, just, can you speak to that, I guess, a little bit? What does that mean?
Sure. It means that every stability, every structure, from financial systems to currency, the way that we use money, the way that country border lines are drawn, the way that people rely on systems and organizations, and anything that is structural, that has been a safety zone, if you will, or kind of a paradigm that we've clung to, will be gone. And we will lose a lot of what we perceived as our security. And that will destabilize a lot of people. When people feel destabilized, when currencies become destabilized and countries, we're moving towards cryptocurrencies and the blockchain technology. If anyone out there is interested, there's a great book called The Blockchain Revolution. And it's not just about money, but it is about how that is changing life as we know it. And it is happening. It's already been happening. And so what that's going to mean and what that's going to look like is that the way we do business, the way we live life, the way we communicate, the way we travel, the energy that we use, the natural resources that we've depleted, the changes on the earth, the changes in the political climates, the way governments work, the way that all of our systems and structures have been going and going and going. They are dead. They're not dying. They're dead. And so now we're in the takedown phase. We're in the explosion phase. We're in the phase where all of this is getting blown up, and it's getting blown up in a big way. Whereas before it was happening under the surface. So I don't know if you've ever seen, like, out in Vegas, or these places where they implode buildings, and they very carefully set up all these charges and these bombs. And, that's sort of the underlying work. That's what's been going on for a few years now. Now, currently, as of the end of this year and moving forward for the next 8 years, it's all the explosions. Every one of these buildings that have been wired and charged are now going to explode. And if you're prepared for that, and you maybe scary, it may be destabilizing, but you're prepared, and I'm fine, I'm safe, I'm protected, I'm supported. And if I feel an intuition to move to a different location or to do something different, I'm going to actually act on that, because the universe is benevolent and loving and always supporting us, always offering us tools and help and guidance. I'll use that. I'll always be safe. I'll always be fine, because I'm going to surrender to a higher power. It's not going to be about me and my ego. That's the big thing. That's what's going to be the difference over these next 8 years between the people who completely lose it and get wrapped up in the chaotic pandemonium, of which there will be a lot, versus the people who seem to be floating on air. And, like, why are they fine? Why are they at peace? Why are they shining so bright? Because they've surrendered to a higher power. And so that series of explosions we're going to see over the next 8 years, which have already begun, is those are the explosions that are going to help us really separate who is going forward with their ascension and who really is remaining stuck in the old ways. And that the part about it is that the old ways don't even exist anymore. They are already being taken down. So if you're, again, clinging to this building that's coming down, you're going to go down with it. And, and I see that as a very empowering thing, because you always have a choice. Every moment, even if you haven't made the choice up until this very moment, this second, listening to this podcast, you now have a choice, because you now learned something that you didn't know before, and you can take life by those reins and kind of move forward in a way that's very empowering, very productive, and very much in the light.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. And go ahead, Jess.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, it's even for a person who, I've been following your forecast, and I feel like on this path, this ascension path, for a while now. Even with all the trust that I have, it would be easy to be overcome by fear and all this.
Absolutely.
Just with all these changes and how drastic and how dramatic they are. But from what I'm hearing you say is that surrender is the key. Is that what you would, is that the advice that you would give to navigate this energy?
Surrender and trust. Yeah. Surrender and trust, because fear to some degree will always be present. But, one of the damaging things about a lot of messaging that comes across, especially on social media, and really, unfortunately, in a lot of the new age communities that are trying to bring light, is that there's a lot of doom and gloom, and there's a lot of fear, and a lot of people just shutting down because they're so afraid of, wow, everything's horrible, and chemtrails and the food supply, and people get very trapped in that dark thinking. And I say to them, you know what? All you do is remember one thing: you did not create the universe. And they're like, what? What does that mean? And I say, just that is such a freeing thought, because although we don't consciously go around saying, I created the universe, we pretty much live like that, because we pretty much live like our egos know everything, can control everything. Every decision we make is up to us, and we know what we're doing. And it's very challenging for human beings to release that control and say, you know what? There actually is a higher power. There is something, whether you call it God or whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter, that created you and me and everything in existence, every star, every galaxy, every supercluster, every black hole. Some being created that. And the wisdom that not only created that, but that organized it in the way that it is organized, has our back. Like that being is knows what it's doing, he or she, however you want to refer to it. Yeah. God, goddess. And we need to just take a deep breath and trust that the creator knows what it's doing, and that we can follow that. We can follow that light, and that surrender to that higher power keeps you completely out of fear. Like like I said earlier, not that the fear won't exist, but it'll keep you out of getting sucked into that dark hole of fear, and to where you become paralyzed and feel like, I can't do anything. This is so scary. This is horrible. It's like, okay, of course I feel fear, because these things are uncertain to me, and we don't like uncertainty. Humans have a hard time with feeling in uncertainties. But when you have total trust and faith in the universe, and in the fact that the universe is loving, and we see evidence of that all over the place, all you have to do is look at the face of a baby, the flowering of a rose. You see the beauty. You not only see the beauty, you feel the beauty, and you feel the love that is the driving force of all of existence. And that's what keeps you out of the darkness. That's what keeps you out of getting trapped in the fear. And you keep coming back to that surrender. You keep coming back to the beauty and the love that really is so much more powerful than any of the darkness. And anytime I feel I'm dealing with a lot of darkness and helping clients through darkness, I just go to that place. I'll be in nature. I'll watch a flower bloom. I'll look at a dolphin jumping in the ocean, something to bring me back to that place of, oh, right, God has this. Like, I'm not in control. I don't have to worry about stamping out every bit of darkness I see. That's not my role. I'm not the creator of the universe. I need to just do my part and shine my light as bright as I possibly can and dedicate my life to that. And that's it. Everything else is good. And everyone can do that. That is literally achievable for every single person who hears this message.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's powerful. And I think that's a really great place to, I think it's a really good ending to this podcast for now. Yeah. Really, it sums it up, right? Like that just sums it. You summed it all up for us in such a beautiful, in such a powerful way. And I know I can feel just the passion coming through you, and I can relate to that time. I get going and I'm just like, blah, 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 and I don't even remember half the time some of the things that I say. what I know. It's like divinely inspired, right? Because it's like, I don't even know what I just said.
Right.
It went off. But it's like, I can just feel that coming from you. And I love it because it definitely resonates with us, sitting here too. We're just like nodding our heads like the whole time. Like, yeah. So yeah, I mean, we just appreciate, wow. I appreciate's not even the word, but we just really love that you took the time to give us such wisdom and just everything that you poured out. We just really thank you for that.
I feel like I've grown just sitting here being in your presence and listening
to
the wisdom that you have to share. So beyond grateful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh. Well, thank you so much, ladies, for having me. I loved being here, and I loved sharing this space and this energy with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And if, for the people listening right now, the Illuminations that you do, how can they, access that? Do you have what's your contact information that they could go to sign up for Illuminations or any of your other?
Yeah, you can everything is through my main website, which is just lianashanti.com. It's lianashanti.com. And there's a tab for Illuminations, and you can sign up right on the website. There's links to any of the programs that I offer, and that's all accessible there. And I'm on Facebook as Liana Shanti. So those are really the two places where kind of the portal for everything that I do and everything that'll be upcoming with lots of new stuff in 2018. It makes it easy all in one place.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I just know, I mean, if you're listening to this, I mean, definitely, we'll put it in the links too for your website. But I mean, if you've been intrigued by any of this, seriously, I mean, oh my gosh, go and do Illuminations. It's super reasonable. You just truly can't go wrong, and your life will literally be changed if you act on that and listen and take part in the forecast. It's really taking charge of your life. So thank you so much, and we will definitely get this up here soon. And thank you so much, Liana.
You're welcome. Have a beautiful day, ladies, and thank you again so much for inviting me.
Yes, thank you.